Oh, hey there, did you call the Tyler? Have you got some tiles that I can look at? Have a look at these little beauties. What kind of tiler are you? Well, to be honest with you, I don't actually tile bathrooms at all. I actually specialise in tile placement board games. Ever heard of Carcassonne? Or what about Azul? I'll take it. Do you take cash or credit? Well, none of those actually. You can pay me back in the form of victory points. Originally introduced by the Moors, a series of blue and white patterned ceramic tiles, also known as Azulejos, captured the eye of a famous Portuguese king on his trip to the Alhambra Palace in southern Spain. This was the inspiration for the very opulent abstract strategy tile placement, tile drafting board game, where players take the role of tile laying artists as they vie for the validation of the king. At the beginning of a brand new game of Azul, players will place the factory displays according to the number of players outlined in the rulebook. This is the setup for a 4-player game. At the very beginning of the game, give the first player marker to the player who most recently visited Portugal. On future rounds, the starting player marker is placed in the center of the factory display area. Then, all 100 tiles are placed in the fabric bag provided, and 4 are randomly drawn and placed on each factory display disc. Each player takes a player board, flips it to the mosaic side of the game board, and places the victory point marker on 0 on the victory point track. There are 5 different pattern lines on a player board, ranging from 1 space to 5 spaces. Players will attempt to completely fill these lines up with a single type of pattern tile. Players will attempt to put a single tile from each completed pattern line on their mosaic wall to score points. From round to round, starting with the person with the first player token, players will choose to either take one type of tile from one of the factory display discs or one type of tile from the center of the game area. If players choose to take a type of tile from one of the factory displays, the other tiles on that display then get moved into the center of the game area. The tiles are then placed on any free pattern line on a player's board, provided that only a single type of pattern tile appears on that pattern line, and that particular pattern tile does not already appear on that row of the mosaic wall. If a player is the first person to take the tiles from the center of the display area, they also take the first player's starting token. They place this on their floor line and incur a 1-point penalty at the end of the round. When a player picks a set of tiles, if they have more tiles than they need to complete a particular pattern line, any excess tiles are placed in the floor line, which will incur a penalty at the end of the round. When all the tiles have been taken, players move on to the wall tiling phase. Starting with the top row of the pattern line grid, if any pattern line is full, players move the rightmost tile into the mosaic wall corresponding to the pattern line row. Players score tiles immediately as they are placed onto the wall. The rest of the tiles from the completed pattern line rows go into the lid of the game box. Players lose victory points based on the numbers printed above the tiles in the floor line row. Any uncompleted pattern line rows stay on a player's board for the next round. When a tile is placed, its score is determined based on whether it's linked both vertically and horizontally to other adjacent tiles on the mosaic wall. The placement of this blue tile would score a player 4 points because it's linked horizontally with 3 other tiles. The placement of the star-shaped tile would score 2 points because it's linked vertically with 1 other tile. The placement of this blue tile would be worth 5 points because it's linked vertically with 2 other tiles and horizontally with 1 other tile. The blue tile would be counted twice during this scoring process. This star-shaped tile would be worth 7 points when placed, 3 vertical points plus 4 horizontal tile points. The first player to complete a single row of horizontal tiles on their wall triggers the end of the game. At the end of the game, players get 2 victory points for every horizontal row that they've completed on their wall, and 7 victory points for each completed column. Players also get 10 victory points for each colour where a player has placed all 5 of the tiles of that colour on their wall. The player who scored the most victory points wins the game. For added replayability, players can use the grey side of the board. The only extra rule added here is that players may not have the same coloured tile appear more than once in any of the 5 vertical lines on the mosaic wall. The tile drafting mechanism that this board game has to offer really paves the way for some really tough decision-making opportunities where players have to think about whether they're going to take tiles that they can use to complete their own pattern lines on their game boards, or deny tiles that the next player needs to try and gain an advantage in the game. There's a high dosage and level of player interaction. Okay, I'll go for the red one. No, wait a minute. The blue one. Hang a minute, no. I'll definitely take the red ones. Planning ahead in this game is absolutely essential, and I love how at the beginning of each round, players have to think about what tiles they're going to take and what number of tiles they're going to take throughout the game. The round might go something a little bit like this, where one player might decide, oh, they'll take this blue one. That means these 3 tiles go in the center, and the second player might then take this blue one, and then these ones will go in the center, and the next player might take this red one, and these will go in the center, and then the next player will then take this one, and these 3 will go in the center. So you can start to see here that some poor soul is going to have to inherit these 7 yellow tiles and cop some sort of penalty at the end of the round. And this brings me to my next point. There are 100 of these beautifully crafted tiles in this game, 20 of each particular colour. The way that the tiles are introduced and used in this game kind of follow the life of a ceramic tile, and some of them might end up on a beautiful wall in a palace, and some of them might end up in the garbage bin, but all tiles in this game get used. So from round to round, players are going to have to keep picking tiles until there are no more left, which means that every tile needs a home. Now, some of these tiles are going to end up on your wall, some of them are going to end up on your pattern line and then be recycled and then be reused in a factory. Some of them are going to end up broken on the floor and give you some sort of penalty. Well, you did say that all the tiles get drafted from round to round, so I thought what better way to use those tiles than to decorate our Christmas tree. The fact that there are 2 different modes of playing this game means that there's incredible replay value and a lot of variation, especially when the original version of the game gets a little bit stale. So I like how including this kind of bare bones variant means that players have a little bit more choice about how the tiles get placed onto their wall. Some points to consider if you think about purchasing this game is that despite the fact this game is incredibly addictive, having to put out 4 tiles on each of the factory discs at the beginning of each round can be a little bit of a chore. So I definitely recommend splitting up the work and giving each person 1 or 2 tiles to fulfill each. And that makes the process of getting from round to round much, much quicker and ensuring that there's as little upkeep as possible. Can't talk now, I'm busy putting out these tiles for the next round. Alright, back to the tile making factory. Another important thing to note is that experienced players who have many games under their belt will have developed an efficient scoring strategy, and they'll know which tiles to take and when to take them from round to round. So they might kind of outcompete players who are less familiar with the game itself. Azul is the perfect game for beginners and families venturing into the board gaming hobby for the first time. Surprisingly, its theme and abstract nature is both intuitive, elegant, and full of tough choices. It is the perfect game for any family board game night. If you really like my reviews, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for supporting me and this channel, and I look forward to bringing you some more high quality board game reviews in the near future. This is Danny signing out. Goodbye.